Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Contact Lost, the Polish podcast about Warhammer 40k played competitively both in Poland and abroad. With me, I'm your host, Week, as usual, and with me today I have our regular guest, and this time a tournament organizer, Pumba.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, dude. Thanks for joining me today. Because today, you are going to be a star. Today, we will be talking about an event that you are organizing. 2,137 points, almost 80 participant event. Tell me all about it. Where does the point amount come from? What are the rules? What's going on?
So, the gist of it is that I'm organizing a biggest singles event this year. I believe is going to be. It's called Arena, and it has a long tradition in our city. But it has not been organized for many years. It used to be a big thing, and now we're returning to this tradition because of the newly revived competitive community in Krakow. So the points format is like it's a two-way thing. Arena was often new as a tournament with a weird points format, so not the standard 2K points format that you usually use for tournaments. As was often the case with many tournaments actually in Poland during previous editions. Every tournament used to has its own points format. Now the newest edition and the more competitively focused crowd that goes to tournaments isn't all about it. So many of these weird formats got lost in the process, but I wanted to bring some of that back. So we are playing 2,137 points, which is a format, but we are following, which is important, we are following all of the rules for army building for 2,000 points armies. So there's basically the difference for the player is basically they can fit one more squad in. Nothing else. Yep. And the actual number is just a funny meme number in the Polish internet sphere, let's say. So that's all there is to it. It's just a funny number, not as like competitively chosen format to fit something in.
Understood. But I saw that people actually treat this quite seriously. You know, even the TTS league that is ongoing on the Polish Discord has adopted this point amount for people to be able to prepare for it. So although a meme, yeah, people tend to stick to it before the tournament. So well
yeah,
done.
it's kind of I wanted to like leverage the persona I've built in the Polish community, let's say, and to be able to actually make this format a little bit different. Because there's only one big tournament in Poland in a month, which usually it's a way for people to focus on just that one tournament and prepare for it, especially if it's a big event that many people are interested in going to. You can basically like shift a meta of the whole community a little bit towards that format. They want to like test lists for it, prepare for it, and this is one of the reasons why I was interested in just changing it a little bit. So people needed to adjust, even though it's a small change, they still needed to adjust their lists and test something new, instead of just taking their normal standard 2K lists to the event.
Yep. All right. And about the event itself, it sticks very very strongly to the WTC format, right? I mean, like the rules pack, the terrain, all the tables, all that jazz is WTC style, isn't it?
That is correct. As almost, if not every big tournament organized in Poland is strictly following WTC event pack as well as rules pack, and this time we even managed to get all of the tables to the WTC terrain setups. I'm very proud of that because that's like 40 tables of terrain strictly prepared for those maps.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's something that a couple of years ago would be unthinkable. Now it's becoming more and more commonplace. So that's great. And I hear that there's going to be a knowledge test somewhere
That
in there as
is
well.
Yep, that is correct. That's also something I adopted from the old arena tradition from back when. It was a controversial thing always, and many people are against putting actual additional points you can gain from that knowledge test to your adding to your battle scores, to your
Okay.
actual big points.
So how do
Yeah.
you intend to do that? Is it going to be like between rounds or at the beginning or at the
I
end?
think I think we're gonna just do just the last 10 minutes of a lunch break. I'm gonna make all the announcements necessary before that. It's not. It's like the whole test is 10 minutes max. It's 10 questions, A, B, C, D, nothing major, and it's ridiculously difficult. I'm
Oh,
hoping no one is gonna score maximum points from it, just to spite people even more.
okay.
Basically, what I'm doing is I want to, both with the format and the tests, I want to bring back some of the fun to tournaments, because they are for most people are still social events. So I want to as a new resurrected arena, I want to bring some of the old stuff and some of the new stuff. So like the best things about the new events organized in Poland. So like good rules packs, good FAQs, WTC terrain and such. But I want to still like stick to the tradition, because many of the older players, especially in the area, will remember that and just reminisce about the old days,
Yeah.
which is kind of fun, right?
Yeah, you managed to convince a lot of people to come. Like I think the final turnout, at least in Tourney Keeper, is what, like 76 people.
76 players,
Yeah,
correct.
including us, people from the north of Poland who will be traveling what, like 7 to 9 hours
I'm
to
I'm
get there.
super excited about, like, I managed to convince people from across Poland to come, which
Yeah,
is great.
yeah, so well done. Let's see if they all manage to come and be there and enjoy this with us. But I'm so fucking excited. Anyway, we're here for the facts, so let's focus on the facts now. And I think it's the time for us to do the faction rundown. So let's look at the stats. Do you want to go through the numbers for the armies? Like, what's the representation of each army?
So starting with the most popular faction, which is, and that's a big fucking surprise, it's Necrons, which
I
I
mean,
was
is it
really not
really?
expecting.
Is it really in
It
Poland?
is. It is.
Okay.
It's actually 8 armies, 8 representatives of Necrons, which is just straight up bizarre. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Poland was already playing Necrons way more than any other country, and lists were popping now and then, like in the Western tournaments. But throughout the ninth edition, I think we played Necrons the most, but the meta changed drastically now at the beginning of 2020. But still, somehow Necrons pulled the great result of just having the most representation at an event. To be honest, I'm not sure how well they're gonna do in the current environment, because it's getting quite power creepy and quite ridiculous out there. But I'm still very glad that that's the case.
Yeah, and one thing that I think is worth mentioning is that those lists aren't all identical. They are like, I'm looking, by the way, to our listeners, if you're interested in the lists, they will be available down in the comments of this video. So do have a look if you want. But I'm just looking. I'm in Tourney Keeper because this is also where the tournament is present, when you can track how it's going, and you can see the lists if you have an account in Tourney Keeper. So I'm just going through the top Necron lists from this tournament that I see. In the first one, Void Dragon, Nightbringer, Deceiver, and so on. Then the
Yeah.
second one, which is Niltag, so one of the best Necrons in Poland, with his custom dynasties. So not exactly the one where you have OPSEC on everything, but I think some custom mix of dynasties. So
No, no, no.
none.
That's the one.
Oh,
That
that
is the
is the
custom.
one. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay.
The one with Obsec and 6 inches pregame move, that's a custom dynasty, and he's playing that, which is still, I think, the best option. But yeah, there are many like weird concoctions that people are bringing. There's like the triple Catan list. I've seen a Novok list with Nemester on the side. So there is definitely some unorthodox choices.
Yeah, which is absolutely amazing. But we do have strong Necron players in Poland. So again, maybe the number 8 is quite high, but still, I was hoping for a good representation of Necrons because yeah, people in Poland just rock this shit with Necrons. Yeah. Second place, second most numerous army, Adeptus Custodes. All right, seven
Along
players.
with Harlequins and Tau. What a surprise! Now that's more like it, right?
Yeah,
that's the meta
what we were expecting
representation.
for.
So basically, 21 out of the 76 lists I've gotten is either Custodes, Harlequins, or Tau, which is a big like show of what the meta actually looks like, I feel like, and the power of the newly released codexes, especially the ones released this exact year at the beginning of it.
Right. So I don't know. I can't remember if it was last week or 2 weeks ago. But there was the Polish boot camp, right? There was this occasion to put some armies into practice, and whoever wanted could come and basically show themselves, show their armies, test shit out, and so on. Was the representation similar there for the armies, or not so many Harlequins, for example, or not so many Custodes?
Considering the amount of people that came to the boot camp, which happened at during the second weekend of March, so not so long ago, I think you could consider it to be similar. There were at least 3 Tau players, all with different septs. There were 2 Harlequins players there. There were like I think only 1 Custodes player, but the general that wasn't a huge event. It never is. The venue where we organized it wasn't as big as also. But yeah, definitely those 3 armies were tested excessively. So
Yeah.
everybody wanted to play them. Everyone wanted to test their list against them. Everyone wanted to play even mirror matches because they're quite interesting in the context of both single play and team tournament play. So yeah, many people jumped into that bandwagon, me included, as I've been playing Tau for now I think a month or so. So that's a thing. That's a thing that happened. Those armies have taken meta by the.
They've taken it over.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this broadcast because Pumba needed to run to check up on his potatoes that he had smartly left on the stove. But we figured that it might be a good moment for a round of announcements. Our friends over at the WTC have asked us to politely remind you about the WTC 2022 War Master Grand Tournament that will take place between 9th and 11th of August this year. This means it will take place directly before the actual real World Team Championship. This one, however, will be a 256 player event. It will last between 5 to 8 rounds, depending on how it goes. And it would be a real shame if you weren't there. So if we've got you interested, head on to www.worldchampionship.com/store and have a look at the available options today. Buy a ticket and you won't regret it. Cheers, guys. So that was the top. So we had 8 Necrons and 7 of each of the 3 top meta choices that we've spoken about. Right behind them we have Eldari with 6. So that's also interesting, but no surprise really, I would say, taking into consideration that this is probably the first bigger tournament in Poland where you can test the newly released codex. Would you agree with that?
Yep, absolutely. I think Eldari. I think this includes pure craft worlds and some mixes of craft worlds and Harlequins, because Harlequins that we've discussed previously are just pure Harlequins. I think they have a very good spot. I mean, many of the players, especially initially, consider them to be worse than just Harleys, but I'm not entirely convinced. I think they do have very good play into the meta. I think they're very solid. They do require, I think, initially that's a subject for a different discussion, but I think they require a little bit more finesse than just pure Harleys at the moment. But yeah, I think they're very strong as well.
Yeah, especially that one of the Eldari representatives is bloody, so there must be something to it. He probably wouldn't choose a weak army to come to the tournament, so he must see something in them. But we can
Absolutely.
go into deeper into his list when we're done with the rundown. So right after, or not even after, Eldari or behind Eldari, but at the same level, we have Tyranids. So we have 6 Tyranid lists. So on the same level as Eldari. Is that a surprise? I think all of them are Crusher Stampede, right? There is no like normal non-Army of Renown representation.
I do believe so, unless I've missed something. They are all Stampedes, and you're one of them, by the way. So,
Yep.
hello, here we are. You were supposed to come with the small bugs list, and still fucking Crusher Stampede.
Yeah, which, to be perfectly honest, I'm starting to regret, because I see who my opponent is in the first game, and it's
Who is it?
Asaranir with his insane horde list. And I think that my little Termagants, would have been pivotal in that matchup. But now I just have the big bugs. So yeah, but we can go deeper into that later as well. I mean, uh, I make such bad choices.
I think Stampede is still just extremely solid.
It
And
is. It's very
plays well
reliable.
into many of the top armies as well. Basically, if I wanted to, we can actually finish off the rundown of every army, because behind the Tyranids we've got 5 lists of Drukhari, which is a fall off from the previous domination, which is worth noting, right? Because Drukhari were dominating. I think the tournament will happen exactly at the 1-year anniversary of the Drukhari Codex, which is fun. So it only took a year to bring them down to a level in which they are still good, but not dominant anymore. And all it took was 6 codexes that are just extremely broken to do so.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then we've got 4 players playing Death Guard, 4 Grey Knights, 3 of Admech and Genius Stealers and Orcs, just 2 Space Marines, which is, I mean, it is what it is. It's the most popular army of 40k, and you have 2 representatives of just Adeptus Astartes, which doesn't include the supplement chapters like Death Watch, Space Wolves, Blood Angels, and such. So just the old Codex, this old supplements, let's say. But they are just 2 of these. 2 Chaos Knights, which is another huge fall off from their popularity, even in January during the MG. They were pretty good contenders for top armies, and now they have just fallen off, also because of the new codexes. Then we have 2 Space Wolves, just 1 Astra Militarum list, 1 Blood Angel, 1 of each from Blood Angels, Chaos Demons, Dark Angels, Chaos Space Marines, Imperial Knights, and 1,000 Suns. 1,000 Suns is a surprise to me. I've been playing this army for a long time. I don't think they are nowhere near as bad as, for example, Space Marines or Chaos Space Marines or Demons. I think they are way better. They just don't happen to have the representation on this tournament.
Yeah, because some of their representatives play Tau.
Yeah, basically, right? So that's a thing that happened to them. Also, they do struggle, especially. I think I've said that before DMG also, that I think they've struggled in January to compete in singles against some of the top armies, and now that is even more the case with the new codexes. I think they have opportunities in team tournaments. They are quite a stable army that has good defensive profiles, and some play into the top armies, but it's very difficult to actually just compete against their raw power.
Yep. So, any immediate thoughts when you look at that list? Anything that immediately comes to mind? Any surprises, maybe?
Surprises, except for Thousand Suns being underrepresented. No sisters, by the way.
Oh
which
yeah,
is
which is shocking to me. At
quite,
least it's shocking.
yes, quite. But all at the same time, I want it to be shocking. But then the thing is, I think the meta and like the tier list of armies has just split into two. You have 5 or 6, depending how you count it, top codexes, top armies that play against each other in a rather interesting ways. So
In
there are
their
not,
own league, sort of.
basically,
Mhm.
where the matchups aren't actually very solved. I think there's a lot of back and forth between the matchups and how one army plays into the other. And then you have the rest of the game completely behind that. And there's like a huge canyon after those armies, which is a shame. Let's be honest here.
It is. I mean, it's better that there are like 6 top tier codices than just 1 or 2, but it still invalidates many other armies, like Sisters, for example.
It very much depends on how you look at things. I mean, you've got when the Drukhari and like Almec were dominating, there were just 2 armies. Many people hopped onto them, and they were very dominant and took top spots. But if you came to a tournament with your off meta or like under powered army, at least comparatively, you had hopes of dodging them. You had hopes of just playing like one Drukhari, losing to them, and then having a good run after that, and still like placing top 10, let's say. Now there is just no way of dodging those overpowered armies.
Yeah, one way or another, you're going to meet up someone
basically.
with one of those.
Basically, the bracket of Adeptus Custodes to Drukhari has 38 lists, 38 players out of 76. That's half of the field.
Yeah.
Half of the field is just in those extremely strong armies. So even it's basically impossible to dodge them. Which for a player that's like wants to stick to his one army, like he has chosen Space Marines and plays only that. He's in super competitive. He won't bandwagon into the new codex. It's very rough for those guys. And from that perspective, the meta now is just awful, and I can get that.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask about that because I remember. I mean, I don't remember any specific example, but I remember the times not so long ago when you had people who had like some crazy ass ideas, like they built something very niche that had no right to function, but somehow it did. They would come to a tournament and they would perform well. Maybe they would not win the tournament, but everyone would like look at their list and they would like they would say something along the lines of, "Wow, like that's completely unexpected. He came out of the blue and came 5th or something." How about now in the current meta? Is there still room for creativity for those niche solutions or some unusual builds, or is it completely like net listing, take one of the top 6 armies and that's it? What do you think?
I think it's gotten harder for those kinds of lists. I think just the pure power of the new releases is astonishing. I think we are not talking about power creep anymore. I think it's a power slide. It's just a rocket that went to the moon and flew off this planet. Like I think there soon is going to be a problem of GW having enough space for the bigger numbers to write them somewhere on the data sheets. It's gotten just ridiculous. So at the same time, I will not say that it's not possible. We have not had a tournament with all of the new codexes yet, a big tournament like that. After the DMG, there was a tournament in Torun, which was quite a bit smaller, and it was a different, smaller format. So that completely changes the meta there. And not many of the new codexes were actually played because it was too early for them, and they didn't make the cutoff. So there are a couple of lists that I think are interesting, and I would like to see how they do. I think we can talk about it during like interesting lists section.
Mhm.
And some players are notable for already performing quite good, like in January during the tournament. So I think I'm gonna like watch out for them. What are they gonna accomplish this time? Because I think there are a couple of smart ideas in their lists, or they just stick to the one idea that they used to do well, and it's gonna be very interesting to see if they can actually pull off wins or close games against those oppressively good armies.
All right, so we can actually move to that. So, do you think? I don't know if you want to do like the entire lists or just maybe players or just some of their ideas. But have you noticed anything when going through those lists that was call out worthy? Anything that caught your attention and you're looking forward to see?
So I think we can split it into kind of odd but interesting, but not necessarily, I think, very competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting with an off-meta army, and just what is the top build of the top players, right?
Okay.
Of the top players and top armies. So I think I'm gonna start with a mention of a guy from Krakow, who's a friend of mine. His name is Eto, or like his nick is Eto, and he's playing Craft Worlds, which is a very good army at the moment, right? New Codex. And he has brought a Wraith Knight, along with 2 5s of Fire Dragons, and then he has a Crimson Hunter Exarch.
What the hell?
So basically, as far off meta as you can, I think, go with the army at the moment. I think no one is considering Crimson Hunter Exarchs in their lists. I think Wraith Knights are in the space of like kind of good in vacuum, but then you have like so much better alternatives to it that it never makes the list. And I think Fire Dragons are like completely underappreciated across the board. So I'm very much wondering if he's gonna do well. And that's all on Ulthway still. So a very good, I think, top craft world, or one of the top 2 craft worlds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a case of, can a player that's playing the most, one of the best armies, can he pull off good results against all of the field with the kind of off-meta choices in it, right?
Yeah, and the list is really interesting. I always look at the list also, like not only from the point of view of like what is the raw power, but also like the things around it. How does it, for example, does it give up many points and so on? And when I look at his list, the most points you can get is from assassination, but the rest, like bring it down, Horde a Witch, not really an army that it would be very easy to pick secondaries against, I think. So an interesting composition in that. Assassination, 13 victory points is very character driven. That like there are 2 Warlock Skyrunners, an Autarch, Eldrad, a Farseer. So yeah, so a lot of characters there, but well hidden, difficult to kill. I'm not even sure if I would take assassination against this list just because Eldar characters can jump here and there and fire and fade and disappear. So it's a really tricky list to play, probably both ways, to pilot it and to play against it. So a nice
Yep.
one.
Yep, I'm very interested if he's gonna do well.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, fingers crossed for everyone, but this list does really stand out. Especially the Wraith Knight. I heard of some people saying like if you choose a specific, I think not even the like one of the basic craft worlds, but like the other ones, whatever they are called. The I can't remember what are those random.
Basically, custom
Yeah,
craft.
custom
Sorry.
craft worlds. I think you can make the Wraith Knight like heroically intervene 6 inches and something, and I heard people trying to build lists around that to make him a little bit more mobile and so on. In here in Ulfway, just it's going to be very interesting to see how it performs. So yeah, so a cool list to shout out. Anyone else?
I think 2 of the lists that I'm very interested in is Asarniel's Death Guard.
Yeah.
So your opponent turn 1. I like Asarni is the guy that I think we've already shouted out during one of the podcasts.
But he
who
deserves
has
all the shoutouts.
exactly because he is like exclusively playing Death Guard now. He used to double in some demons in there, basically a chaos player, but now exclusively Death Guard. And Death Guard are very much underappreciated in the Polish community. I think they have fallen off generally in the global meta, but in the Polish community they have fallen off a long, long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now, after his relative success as DMG actually, and pulling impressive results against one of the some top players against Drukhari, which were still dominating back in January. Now he is back with the Terminus S list piloted by Typhus, with like 100 Poxwalkers in there.
Mm-hmm. And 30 cultists.
And we need to remember that after that January tournament happened in Warsaw, that list was actually nerfed by GW in the new chapter approved.
Yep.
We were joking around very much so that it was because of him, because he was literally, I think, the only person in the goddamn world that was still trying to make like a Horde Terminus S list work, and he is still trying. So, like, I appreciate it very much. I think it's a super interesting thing. And I don't know what to think of it. Like, because it's still so much off meta and no one is really testing against it, I think you can still pull off some interesting results and surprises.
Yeah, the funny part is, I spoke to Asarni, I don't know, earlier today or yesterday, and I told him, dude, why so many troops? And you know, and we had a good laugh about it, with a view to our game. But basically, from what I hear, he's been building this specific list, he's been building this list to specifically tackle the meta armies like Stampede, for example, and yet he has never played against Stampede yet. So it's going to be his first time against me at the tournament. So we're going to see if it works or if it doesn't. But to be perfectly honest, when I see this list, that entire horde accompanied by 14 possessed Death Shroud Terminators, the whole assortment of characters and Chaos Spawn, it's overwhelming. There's just so much things to put on objectives and to hold them fairly reliably. It's going to be a real challenge, to be perfectly honest. It's really well thought through.
Yeah, I think so. I think it might play very nice against Stampede. I think it might have a nice play against like Custodes, because they are not known for having anti-horde shooting, and their attacks are okay, but at the same time, -1 damage for their barrel weapons just reduces their damage output significantly there.
Mm-hmm.
I am not sure about Harleys. I think the Void Weaver spams that are prevalent might have enough just pure power to and enough bullets in the Void Weaver blast weapons to tackle the Poxwalker hordes. I think one of the worst matchups possibly is the Tau still, because they have excessive amounts of shooting of very different kind. They can both clear off Poxwalkers with AFPs, with Blast, with SMS if they bring broadsides, even missile pods and cyclic ion blasters have like 2 and 3 shots each. So there's a lot of shots there, right?
And the army has a crazy footprint, so you cannot hide it really.
Exactly. So I think Tau will be a problem. But some of the armies, especially top armies, can actually very much struggle to clear this off the table.
Yeah,
yep.
and off objectives. So, again, Asarni, you bastard. I'll see you.
He's done it again.
He's done it again.
Or did he? We're
yeah,
see.
We'll see. But it's I already I already worry, and I have a lot of stuff to think about before this matchup. So yeah, I should have taken the small tournament. Anyway, moving on. Any other things that you found interesting?
So another list that was a big surprise after the DMG in Warsaw in January was Grzelich's Dark Angel list, which is a land speeder spam.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah,
list has done
the one.
surprisingly well there, losing I think only to Chaos Knights. And other than that, pulling good results against things like orcs. So he's back with it. Basically the same stuff, but more speeders because you have more points to spare. And we'll see. It's kind of the same thing as with Asariel. So they have done well in previous tournament, big tournament, singles tournament in January, and now they are back to see if they can actually still pull off the same thing twice, but now with the even more brutal meta coming around.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the army should struggle against a lot of top meta. I think it should struggle against Harlequins. I think it should struggle against Tau. I think it's interesting against Tyranids because the sheer amount of Malta shots that are going in might break the Stampede's back.
Yeah, let's just quickly say, because I guess not everyone knows Jelly's list. I mean, it was shouted out also in I think the Thursday show by Adam Camilleri before DMG, but it's still worth mentioning. We have Samael, we have Raven Talon Master, we have another Talon Master, and then what? 3 times Landspeeder Tornado, 2 times Landspeeder Tornado, 2 times Landspeeder Tornado, 2 times Landspeeder with 2
7
multi-meltas.
tornadoes, all with
Jesus.
multi-meltas.
Yeah.
Four normal ride speeders, all with multi-meltas, and 3 typhoons. So the rocket gun.
And 2 Ravenwing Dark Talons.
And 2 Dark Talons on top of it.
Holy
So there's
crap.
a lot of multi-meltas.
I mean, if you think about it, it's what, 19 models. So it must be pretty nice to pilot again, and it only gives up bringing it down. It doesn't give up a lot in any of the other objectives.
I mean, only.
Yeah,
if you
it's
give
20
up
points.
one objective, that's probably enough for your opponent to take it. I don't think there's many lists that give up more than that. So it actually does give your opponent something to pick, which might be a problem. It's a very swingy list, I believe. I think it's very dependent on most of the multi-metal shots are gonna hit on force because of -1 from various sources across the game and from dense terrain that's prevalent in the WTC pack. There's no rerolls really. Then you have like 5+ invents and 4+ invents on your vehicles from the Dark Angels or like the Raven Wing detachment rules. So I think it's very swingy in this sense, but it can do work if it works.
Yeah, so we'll see. I'm very curious to see. Jelly, again, a very seasoned player, a very seasoned pilot. He sticks to his list. He knows his Space Marines well, so it could go anyway. But with him, I'm sure he's going to be in the top 10 somewhere with that list. So at least I wouldn't be surprised. Anyway, since we are already talking about Space Marines, I cannot really go any further without mentioning the 2 Space Wolves lists that I've seen. And this is mainly because I've seen that both lists sport Thunderwolf Cavalry. And in one of them, in Roman Soboin's list, we have 3 cavalry units, and then we have Piotr Rolnik, who has 2. And they both have some dreads and stuff like that. So in the pre-show, you've mentioned that you've seen those, or at least one of those lists before. How did they do, and do you think they are going to do well here?
So we were playing a local tournament, pre-arena tournament in Krakow, and Roman came with the exact same list. He has tested it, and he has done well against a Knights list with Astra military support, and he has done well against Black Templars, which are supposedly better Space Marines, as many people consider them. But he had a non-game against a Harlequins list.
Sounds like he got erased.
Yeah, pretty much. So I want to like that list. Like, I appreciate the Space Marines. They bring, especially Thunderwolf Cavalry, right? Which have not seen much play throughout this edition, even when the Space Wolves were at the top of the meta. But I genuinely don't believe it's gonna do super well against the top armies. I think the sheer power of the top armies is gonna break through that list. And I used to be a great Space Marines advocate, but I've just given up on the army.
Yeah, look, GW, what you've done. You've broken a man.
Pretty much. Pretty much. I used to play Space Marines exclusively, and I am just burnt out by that army, and I struggle to make a list that has a play against the top armies. And I think it's gonna be a similar story. But I think, like, I know Roman personally, and he is one of the most seasoned and oldest players like in the area. He has played way before I ever started. So what he's doing is basically bringing his toys to play with everybody and to socialize, which is a big part of a tournament. And I think in this sense, the fact that he's not trying to like catch some meta army off and just trying to have a blast with his beautifully painted space walls, which I've seen many times. I think that's just part of the tournament scene.
Yeah, absolutely. But still, I think it's a very romantic idea to bring Thunderwolf Cavalry, and well, fingers crossed that it turns out that his toys are not only toys, but that they have spikes and teeth and claws and hammers, and that they can make people suffer.
I think it's gonna be interesting to see it go against some of the other armies, like the half of the field that isn't just broken.
Yeah.
So things like Grey Knights or Genestealer Curls or like Chaos Knights, perhaps. I think some of these armies can have problem dealing with the Thunder of Cavalry. I'm wary how well it's gonna do on the WT stables because they are very dense and the cavalry is a cavalry. Surprise. So they don't use the breachable keyword too well. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see it come up against other off-metalists, let's say, and how well it's going to do there.
Yep, in the hands of an experienced player, they can still cause some harm and some damage. So, again, looking forward to that. Anything else? Anything else that caught you off guard or caught your attention?
So from the top of the meta, I think it's still worth like mentioning an elder list of Vladi. I mean, Vladi is a Polish veteran. He's one of the best players in the country by far. So seeing what he's bringing to the table with the new Elder Codex, which is kind of unsolved at the moment, is especially interesting. So his list is a Bieltan list, so not Ulthway. So he's going the more aggressive route with the more offensive of the two craft worlds that are considered in the list or in the list building. He has 3 5s of Scorpions, 2 5s of Banshee. Very like this part is quite standard at the moment. I think both of these aspect warriors are excellent. I've been decimated by Scorpion Exarchs during our bootcamp. I was playing against Duda, the other great Elder player, and one of the Scorpion Exarchs literally killed 400 points of my 1,000 Suns, by the way. Like, I'm not exaggerating right now. He has killed like 7 Terminators, 5 Rubrics, and a character.
Yeah, I'm totally not surprised because I played against Joker and his Scorpions, and with their forward deploy and movement and charges, he killed my Hive Guard in the first turn. So
yeah,
I know what you mean.
Brutally good. Yeah, brutally, excessively strong. The army is quite vulnerable, apart from the Wraith Lords, which Vlad is taking 3 of those, I think, or 2.
3.
I think 3, right? So that's the like an aggressive part of the army that he can play.
Push forward, basically.
Move forward, yeah. Play more aggressively. They aren't the most resilient out of the whole like game until you buff them up.
Yep.
And then they become just unkillable gods of destruction. Because if you have 5+ Feel No Pain protect, and I think you can give them light cover as well, then they just become insane, straight up insane.
Yeah, and with, Guide, Doom, Exploding Sixes, and so on, all those Bieltan units, including the scatter laser bikes that he has, I think, 6 of, support platforms and what have you, it suddenly becomes a very, very killy list. Add
Yep.
Strands of Fate into the mix, and it's really explosive.
Yep, yep,
So in his hands, it's going to be deadly, I'm sure.
It's a very wide list built around MSU. So you've got like some support platforms that can screen you out and still give you fire support from out of line of sight. You've got 2-wave serpents probably for the banshees or the scorpions to use that are very hard to shift. You've got your standard extremely good psychic support in the form of 2 Farseers, a Spirit Seer, and a couple of Warlocks. You obviously have scatter bikes, which are a staple, I think, now, and they are just ridiculously good.
I see he has actually 9 of them, not 3,
Yep.
but 9.
Three times 3, basically.
Yep.
3 units of 3. Yep. Which are just insanely good with battle focus. I think they are one of the biggest battle focus abusers in the other army, and are just so hard to shift when they can just shoot freely 36 inches with the scatter lasers and move off to hide behind the wall. You've got like from one of the more unorthodox choices, you've got a Viper, you've got a Warwalker, so to go even wider, I think.
Oh, that's for secondaries, probably.
What do you mean?
Well, like, I don't know, Engage or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That absolutely makes sense. I thought like to last or something I'm missing, but not. The list is super MSU focused. It's not putting too many points in any one unit. I think the most expensive unit in the list is 2-wave serpents, which is interesting. So there's not like a 10-man Scorpion unit. And also worth noting is that there is no Phoenix Lords there. No Jane Zar, no Baharoth, I think he's called, the
jumping motherfucker.
the jumping uninteractive guy who just refuses to ever be touched by anything. Or the Striking Scorpion Phoenix Lord. I can't recall his name, but he was tested as well, and he has brought none of these. So generally, the list is very unorthodox. I think it's a very Vlad list. It's not very obvious how it plays. It's MSU focused. I think he's gonna do extremely well with it, as he often does, and he's one of the top contenders to win the event as a whole.
Absolutely. So one other thing that I noticed, and I think is a change to what I've seen at least a month ago. I played Danny, like I don't know, once or twice. We played in the league, and I remember his GSC list. Well, I remember it partially, but the thing that I remember definitely was that it didn't support any aberrants. And now, when I look at his list, he has 30 of them. The other guy, who is I don't think I noted down his name, but there is another guy playing GSC.
Yep.
I think exactly. Sorry. So I think he's also bringing like 2 units. What the hell happened there?
Both have 3 units of 10 aberrants.
Okay, so what happened there? Where is the change coming from?
I think what happened is Tau happened. I think the GSC codex generally was thought to be a strong codex with extreme punch, but still was quite overshadowed by the new custodies, which are more obvious to play, way easier to play, and just fielding an army of custodians turned out to be very easy compared to having a full GSC collection. So I think this is one of the reasons why you've seen a lot of custodies, but not that many GSC players popping up. And that they used to, especially Danny, who is I think top GSC player in Poland right now, he has been testing them excessively after the codex came out in many tournaments, TTS leagues and such. And he was also a part of the bootcamp that happened basically a week ago, 2 weeks ago, let's say. And what he has discovered is that his normal list, which relied on, that was the custom one in which he ignored the minuses for industrial weapons, and there's like one more bonus they get, but I'm not super like up to date with all of the GSC details. But that list was relying on a super hard punch, but was very fragile, as most GSC lists are. And that just doesn't work into Tau after they came out, because any Tau list will just shred through you with no problem using their out of line of sight shooting. So SMS or AFPs will just shred through that kind of list.
Yeah, but the army that was supposed to be good at trading, suddenly, you cannot really interact with Tau in any way. So
exactly.
It loses it's all claws and teeth.
That's exactly what happened, and that was a big problem for the army. Danny has come up with an idea of just switching the mindset 180 degrees. And after initially testing aberrants after the codex came out, he deemed them like good but not optimal, and he has returned to them because they turned out to be, if you put them in bladed cog and pay excessive amounts of CP, so 2 CPs for each 10-man squad, then you have actually something that can survive a punch. And that's pretty much the only thing out of the whole codex that can actually take some punishment before going down.
Interesting change.
Yep. So the list is now heavy on aberrants. Both of these guys took 3 times 10 aberrants that are just super buffed up, all with the Xenoform Bionics. So 2 CPs for each squad. I think that gives them 5+ Invuln. They have 5+ Feel No Pain innately, -1 damage. So
sounds like
they
a stampede.
Exactly, right? So now the buffs are like coming together, and you're thinking, all right, actually they can survive something, and stay still as they always were. Just during, if you manage to get them into combat, they're gonna shred through anything. So now the list has some play against Tau. I have no idea how well it does actually. I think Danny could speak more about that, but I have not played against it during the bootcamp. I didn't have a chance. But he has been pulling good results. I think he has won against Drukhari there. I think he has done well against Custodes. So there's like a clear evolution of GSC in the meta of the new codexes, and I'm super excited to see how well it does.
Yeah, it's really cool to see those changes, those players trying to adjust to the meta of those less obvious armies, so to say, or
especially so drastically, like changing your whole idea of the list from one cult to the other, and just flipping everything you thought about your codex on its head and just coming up with something completely new.
Yep, it also shows how well the codex is written, that it gives you that possibility to do something like a 180-degree spin and still be able to perform at tournaments. So that's actually well done by GW, I guess. But there is one more change that I observed. We sort of touched upon this already. One major change in comparison to the DMG that took place 2 months ago. Back then, I think when we were doing the faction rundown, we had like 8 Renegade Knights, or 8 knights in total, like, or even more. Suddenly here we have maybe 2 players who play Renegade Knights and just 1 player that plays Imperial Knights. What happened here? Like, where are those knights?
Well, they had a good run.
True.
But which lasted a month or something around that. And they just got destroyed by the new codexes. I think that's the gist of it. I honestly don't think they have play against any of the top armies. Maybe if you include Dark Eldar, so Drukhari in the top armies, they have played there. Perhaps they might have played against like Craftworld Eldar, but that's it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I don't see them having any chance against a good Tau list, against good Harlequin list, or Custodes list. I think they're just gonna get demolished. Like, I've played
insane.
one of the guys that is going to this tournament for like a practice game. I think last Friday, I've managed to kill 8 army gears in a single turn.
I mean, yeah, again,
With Tau.
killing army gears is not really that big of a challenge.
Exactly.
For the majority of armies. We played in a, what was it, like 1,000 points tournament, and I brought my, small Tyranid list with 2 units of GSC Gene Stealers, and I just rushed them first turn, and by the end of second turn there were, I think, no armigers left out of 7. Uh, with the tiny Tyranids. So
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So basically, when in the meta where like Grey Knights were good, or Thousand Suns were good, or armies like this, or like Drukhari, which needed to at least go to combat with them, that was very much a different story. But now every single codex that came out can just demolish them off the table in 2 turns. So basically, their defensive profile is irrelevant.
That's a shame.
It also don't actually kill that well, because of the warglaives with their multi-melta are gonna plaque off some of the shield drones. You don't have good targets for in Eldari. You might like kill a couple of custodies in shooting, but then in melee it's a 50-50 kind of thing with their defensive stratagems. It's very difficult for them. That's all there is to it. They've got demolished by the new releases, but as many of the older codexes were when they came out. I think the 2022 has presented us with the new insane level of a codex. And from the leaks of Tyranid Codex coming up, or the new Knights datasheets, I don't think it's gonna get any better.
Okay. Well, let's leave it there, and let's just hope that the players who come to the tournament prove us wrong.
Hopefully.
Tournaments always play out differently, so we'll speak in a week's time, and we shall see.
God, I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, me too.
I'm so hoping there's a huge upset and some off-meta army wins the event. I would be very
fingers crossed. I mean, absolutely. That would be a nice turn of events. One last observation that I have, in terms of like changes to one of the armies that used to be dominant. So Drukhari, I see that Drukhari players are now experimenting with their codex as well. It's not all about Thick City anymore, or it's not all about like Grotesques and Talos. I see Ravagers are coming back into play. So can you tell me something about that, perhaps?
So the situation is that you cannot make this no shooting list anymore, I think. Because of the many of the top armies being like Tau or Custodes, you cannot fully rely on your melee output. You need to plink off some of the wounds of Stampede, or like a couple of drones, or kill a bike this way. But if you just go to combat with like Custodes, you're gonna get shredded. Like, they are actually not that good against them. Just 5 grotesques without the rerolling everything to wound because of the Custodes stratagem don't do nearly enough. So what happens is you need to again pivot somewhere else to find the missing pieces that you've lost along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I am like, I haven't seen that many Drukhari games recently, but some of the best players, like Crazy, he's bringing back Hellions. We've got, I think, even 2 lists of Drukhari in this tournament have big squad of Hellions, so 8 and 9 respectively.
Yep.
2 Ravagers. Here we are. No Talasai. I guess because of like I think they have proven themselves to be not optimal against like Tau.
Yeah.
So 2 Ravagers. 2 Hellions. 2 Ravagers. 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 2 Ravagers
Probably too slow.
it's very interesting because you can see another age of Drukhari now. The age in which they need to find good options to counter the specific meta choices, as the codex is still very wide, as it has proven to be for the literal year that it is out. So you need to find those choices that you think will counter the top armies, and Thick City is not it anymore, especially with the -1 damage for weapons above strength 8 not working, right? So the whole tower shooting just shreds through you because your -1 damage doesn't work anymore against them.
Yeah, but it's again, it brings warmth to my heart to see that players actually stick to Drukhari despite those setbacks, and they try and they try to find something else in their books and not just drop Drukhari completely and move to another faction, which is awesome. And bringing units that aren't immediately apparent maybe to the list, that's fantastic, and I'm happy that people are trying to do that. Um, any other thoughts? Anything else that you've observed? I mean, sisters. What happened to sisters?
Uh, Sisters were always a difficult army to play. I don't think there were many players that were super like competitive and playing them in the tournaments in general. And now that they have had a long like rough patch after the chapter approved, goddamn, I hate this book, nerfed them after the new codexes that are obscenely good counter them. I think many people are just done, not interesting, and not interested. Especially that they were not a very popular army. Like they were never as popular as like Space Marines. That they still have a couple of players playing them. That's the situation. I think it's a global thing as well. I think the sisters unfortunately are struggling across the board, and their player numbers are diminishing.
Yeah, it's probably also because now every single army that comes out has this damage reduction and so on, and units like Repentia, for example, who used to be useful, great at trading and so on, now no longer have that edge, no longer have that punch. So I don't know.
For me, that's a real shame because I would consider sisters to be the optimal power level of a codex. I think them, along with Thousand Suns, and maybe Grey Knights, are like the three codexes that I would love to to be the default power level of a codex.
Interesting. An interesting take.
I would really consider them to be like they are good into some things. They are quite difficult to play. They trade well, but have weaknesses like out of line of sight shooting. But you can like kind of play around it with your good reserve play and auto charges and rhinos. So they they have weaknesses, but they are extremely good and difficult. Until the sheer power of the game has pushed them out. It's for me similar case with Thousand Suns. I still love them. I think they are very interesting to play. They rely on their psychic phase a lot. They have good blobs and like theoretically they are difficult to kill. And then they're just the sheer power and the power creep of the new codexes has just eaten them alive, because your supposedly durable units are no longer durable. So what are you paying for there, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, I think that is it about the faction rundown and list summary. I'm sorry if we didn't call out anyone by name. I'll try to do better in our next episode when we sum this tournament up. Probably more names will be called out. But there is still an opportunity to hear your name. You might hear your name in a second, because I want to highlight an aspect of Polish competitive scene that I haven't seen anywhere else. And I find it interesting. And Pumba, I also wanted to get your take on this. Why is it done, and is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? So, to all the people who don't know, to our listeners, in the Polish tournament scene, there is a certain tradition, habit, thing that people do, and I haven't seen it abroad. When I mentioned it to Fred from the German national team, he was surprised, but he loved the idea. And the idea is that the tournament organizers in Poland allow or even encourage people to issue challenges to one another. So what this means in practice is when you sign up for the tournament, you can immediately issue a challenge towards someone, and that person might accept it, and you get to play the first game of your tournament with that person that you've challenged. Um, Pumba, can you explain the point of that? Is it just for fun? Is it just the fun aspect of the tournament, or is there actually some tactics involved in this as well?
So that's a very much a tradition thing. I have no idea how it came about because it's way older than my career in the competitive scene.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it is a thing that exists. I think 90% of it is just fun. Just the fun aspect of knowing how you're gonna play, or like issuing a challenge to a top player because you want to play against them, or to your colleague which you haven't played in a long time and want to do it in a big event. So I think 90% of challenges are issued in that manner. But I think there is like some aspect of tactics there. What you might want to do, for example, if you are going for a good result in a tournament and you are probably gonna contend for the top spots, you might want to issue a challenge to another top contender to play them round one when you are the most basically you are at your finest, right?
Yeah.
It's your first game, you're still fresh, you think well, you're not tired after the other games, so you might want to take the opportunity to play that very difficult game as your first game instead of probably still facing them after a couple of rounds
At a later stage, yeah. Mm-hmm.
exactly, like in the evening basically. As a whole, I think that's a great part of Polish tournaments. I think it's a tradition that is like, it's just nice.
Yeah.
I like. There's not much to it. I think it works also because we have the 20-0 system and like straight up Swiss pairings, so you can never really submarine. Like if you want to win an event, there's like a 0% chance you aren't gonna play another top players. It's very hard to dodge every top player who is going for the top spots.
Absolutely.
So if you're still gonna do it, you probably should. You might take the opportunity to play that game first and be at your best there. Also, you kind of know what you're standing on, right? If you completely get demolished that first game, you might want to kind of just chill, for example. Now you know that you've lost your first game 20-0, for example. It was a very good game against a good player, and you're probably out of the running for the very top spots. So maybe you just want to chill out, or maybe you want to still try hard. There's many aspects of that, yeah.
So listen, just to finish the episode, I wanted to propose a little bit of fun. Because for this particular tournament, we have a nice little list of challenges that have been issued. And I did send you the list. I was wondering perhaps we want to try to do some betting on, just looking at the player names and the armies that they're going to play, trying to sort of guess who's going to win. And then next week we can see who was right or who was wrong. What do you say?
That's a pretty good idea. That's a pretty good idea. One more thing before we do this, I wanted to mention that the challenges are also a nice opportunity for the newer player to show themselves, especially if they want to, for example, contend for the national team. You might want to consider challenging some of the best players in the country to show them that you are capable player and you can actually compete against them. That's a very nice aspect of challenges in the field of team tournaments and WTC.
Yeah. So to all the tournament organizers out there in the world, give that idea some consideration, because you might want to do this. This might help unearth some hidden talent in people that you might not know about, and it's just a nice tradition to have, I guess. So yeah, without further ado, let's look at the couplings or the pairings that we have, and then yeah, I'll have your opinion on who might win or lose or draw. So the first pair, let's say, I have here a player that I don't know, so I might butcher his name, but that's the forum name. So Cesararezzo. I don't know.
Zararezo.
Yeah, if I'm reading this right, I don't know what faction he plays because he couldn't find an Eternity Keeper.
The guy's name is Wojtek. I think he's playing Dark Eldar.
All right, so him versus Misha, who is playing Harlequins. Who do you think is going to win this one? Just based on, maybe not even looking at the list, but just what faction it is and who's playing it.
So I think Harlequins versus Dark Eldar are a very skill-based matchup. I don't think it's very solved, and I think it's up in the air. But I trust Misha to pull this off. He
Okay.
is one of the guys that, for example, attended the boot camp, and I know him enough to know that he's competent with the army. So I'm gonna give this one to him.
Okay. I will go with a draw because it's just elf blood versus elf blood, and I don't know if Misha has had the time to play test or play through his Harlequins properly. Dark Eldar more established in the meta. I think it looked like a draw to me, but I might be wrong. We'll see next week. Second one, Valchak with his Stampede and Kichu with Genestealer Cults.
And 30 Aberrants.
And 30
That's
Aberrants.
that's also an interesting one. I think it's gonna be a small victory to the Tyranids.
Okay. Very,
So
very
like a
interesting.
12-8 victory to the Stampede.
Okay. So I know Valchak's list. I've played against it. He has the typical Polish Stampede, so the Makaran.
He has Vladi's Stampede.
Yeah, that's Vladi's
Something
Stampede.
around
That's what we need to say that out loud. It's Vladi's Stampede. Shame on you, Valchak, for not coming up with your own idea, like myself, for example. Still, I would like to bet on the Genestealer Cults just because they are so tricksy and I guess underappreciated. So I'm gonna go with Kichu here, and we'll see. Next one, Neraden with his Custodes versus Seraph and Necrons.
So this one is like kind of close to my heart because Seraph is one of the players that is a good friend of mine, and he has done very well with Necrons throughout 8th, 9th edition, and he was one of the members of the team that we took second place in the Polish Team Championship with. So he is very good with them, and he's playing against a newer player, so a guy who's I think 16 years old. And he's borrowing his Custodes from someone, so he is still relatively new and has played almost exclusively online with them.
Yep.
So I think it's a very difficult pairing for Necrons, but I'm still betting on Seraph.
Okay. I am torn here. I think I'm gonna go with Seraph as well, just because I want to see Necrons succeed, and I really don't like Custodes very much. Sorry to say. So it's Necrons for me. Sorry, Neraden. Maybe next time. All right. Gogi with his Harlequins and Matyusz with his Orcs.
Also a difficult one, right? I think straight up Harlequins are gonna beat the Orcs. And I think the Orcs is kind of built with kill rigs and snagas. So I think there is a play there, but I'm still just from the pure power of the Codex giving that one to Harlequins.
Okay, cool. I will go with the Orcs just because I firmly believe that Orcs can withstand anything. So I'm going with the Orcs this one.
I mean, he has a 6 invuln.
Yeah, I mean.
And if you're a good enough
OP.
Orc player, that should be enough to withstand everything.
Believing that he wins should be enough. So, if he's a true Orc player, then he will do it, I'm sure. Młodysz Kappa, Thousand Suns, Rolnik, Space Wolves. That's an epic matchup, by the way.
That's a grudge match.
Exactly.
That's also Magnus against Thunderwolf Cavalry.
Yeah,
so all about that.
It doesn't get any cooler than that.
True. So what do you think? You go first this time.
Of course, Space Wolves. I will always go with the Vikings. So no questions asked.
Well, we've played that matchup one time, I think, and I've handily wiped your ass, the floor with your ass, with my Thousand Suns.
That's not representative of anything.
I think Młodysz Kappa is going to do exactly the same thing with the Space Wolves because they are just a worse army and a worse chapter, and you can't change my mind about that.
We'll see. We'll have our people, represent us and show us. Next one, Tweak. Who's that guy versus Asarnil? What do you think?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, Stampede versus.
Who do you think? Do you think you're gonna pull this one off?
Um, I've been thinking a lot about that today. I don't have a crazy amount of shooting. I really will have to put a lot of effort into like killing all that stuff. But from what I learned today, Poxbringers don't really pass morale tests. So you have to wipe them off completely in order to get rid of them, and then they can return for 3 CP on those big units. Um, and then he has all other units that are not Poxbringers that are also going to be significant. I'm leaning towards Asarnil, although I can promise I will try to do my best.
I'm but this is super interesting. I think this is you don't kill him very well, but how does he kill you?
Yeah, the problem is he has more OPSEC. I can give stuff OPSEC in my list, but that's only one thing. I think he can win on the primary, and it will be very difficult to fight this off. But again, I will do my best to at least make it 3D chess for him.
I'm thinking a draw. I think if
Okay.
you guys pick your secondaries well and play this perfectly, I think this might be a draw.
Yeah, that's very diplomatic to say. I'll go with a draw as well. Right, then we have Problem with his Dark Eldar versus
No,
Stur
that's
with his...
Karol. That's Pułkownik Bem.
That's how you read it!
No, I have no idea. It's always been Karol to me.
So like the entire 3-city reads it as reads that as Problem.
Is this Problem? No,
I don't
I
know.
don't think that's the case.
So then we
Basically,
misread
it's
it the
Karol
entire
from
time.
Warsaw with Dark Elder against Yashur with Grey Knights.
All right,
The old top of the meta collapses onto itself.
pretty much. So what do you think?
I think Dark Elder win.
I'll bet on Grey Knights just because of the Mortal Wound output and spells. And yeah, I might be wrong, but that's what I want to happen. We'll see. So okay, it's DE for you and it's GKs for me. Then we have Roman with his Space Wolves that we've spoken about versus Krulik with his, I believe, Admech.
Yep, I think it's Admech. Let me just double check that. I can do this on the spot. Yes, it's Admech. It's Lucius list.
Right. So what do you think is going to happen here?
That is interesting as well. I will give Roman this one. I think Space Wolves are going to prevail in this.
Yeah, and yep, as proud Space Wolves owner, although they sit in my little display thingy for this tournament, but I'm always gonna go with Space Wolves. So it's a Roman for me as well. Vladi versus Crazy, one of the most intense first round matchups, I think. What do you think?
This is basically the one of the, if the two players collapse facing each other in the first turn. Super interesting.
That could be the final.
That could well be the final. That is actually true. And that's so hard. That is honestly so difficult to assess. I'm gonna give it to Crazy with a slight victory.
I'm gonna give it to Vladi just because I believe that in that old saying that he can win with everything, no matter how bad it is. It could be a stable door.
And especially when he's actually playing something good this time.
Yeah, exactly. So this is basically the what's the saying? Unstoppable force meeting the immovable object. So that's sort of a game. So we'll see.
That's a game that I'm gonna be I think all of my first round I'm gonna spend watching that table.
That table, yeah, exactly. Yep. Okay, next one, 2 left. So we have Stasik with Harlequins versus Grzeli with his crazy Space Marines list.
So you've got Harlequins going against a bunch of speeders.
Yeah, Tron
swingy, but I think Harlequins just pull this one off. They have a lot of shooting that's good against the speeders, and the speeders rely heavily on just single melta shots, and the 4+ rerollable many times in one should make this true.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Grzeli just because he has played this so many times already, and he has taken top spots in like even at DMG, that I trust his skills and that he can outsmart his opponents, even though the opponents are the followers of Kagora, whatever the god is called. So yeah, so I'm with Jelly on this one. And then the last one, Konyu with a Stampede versus Rusek with Renegade Knights. What do you think is going to happen here?
So this is interesting as well. Both of these are good friends of mine, and one is a very new player to the game, playing Chaos Knights, and one is an older player to the game that has not played in literal ages, playing Broken as Stampede. So in theory, that is an impossible pairing for Knights to win. But I do think like Rusek is experienced enough, and Konyu is like inexperienced enough with Tyranids that the Knights will prevail here.
Okay.
I think the player skill gap is going to come into play.
All right. I'm going to mark it as a draw just because I firmly believe this is sort of a draw-like matchup. So we'll see. I don't know. I haven't played my Stampede against any form of Knights yet, so difficult to say. But I believe a good Knights player can even pull a slight win here. But again, I might be brutally proven wrong. We'll see next week. So those were all the pairings. I hope that the guys that got shouted out enjoyed it. And I think this will be it for today. Pumba, any final thoughts, any final comments, anything else that you want to mention?
I don't think so. I think we've discussed pretty much everything, and I'm just very excited for the tournament. I hope it will do. I hope it will go great.
Yeah, me too. Again, I'll try to all our listeners now. I'll try to do some sort of coverage from that. I don't know how much I will be involved in obviously in the games and so on, but I'll try to put some pictures on on Instagram, on Facebook, wherever. We'll try maybe with some video interviews or something like that if time allows and if people have the mood and the fortitude to actually do that. So yeah, keep following us and I'll do my best to provide you with some content. Pumba, I thank you for all the fun that you provided in this episode.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely looking forward to the next one. Hopefully we can discuss it. We can discuss the tournament next week and see whether we were right or wrong. And yeah, to all our listeners, do like us, subscribe us, follow us in all the social media, and we'll try to deliver more fantastic content. And definitely we will be summing this up next week. So stay tuned for more emotions, and until next time.
Yep. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye bye.